Hey guys, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate. You are you, and I just saw The Exorcist Believer. I didn't even take time to jot down notes or anything. I'm just getting right in front of the camera, and I'm just going to shoot from the hip to give you my thoughts because they are not at all in sync with what everyone else's thoughts seem to be. And it really, to me, begs the question of, is The Exorcist Believer even being given a fair shot, or is it being scrutinized in a way that maybe other films would not? What kind of factors could be at play that would make that the reality of things? Well, let's go ahead and look at things here. The Exorcist Believer from director David Gordon Green. Now, David Gordon Green most recently did the Halloween trilogy. And so a lot of people are like, I can't believe he's getting another iconic horror franchise. Halloween 2018, pretty much the consensus was that was a good film. But then Halloween Kills, with the most god-awful dialogue you've seen in any movie in a long, long time, and some really silly plot stuff. Evil dies tonight. And then we moved right on along to Halloween Ends. And it gave us this really kind of puzzling, bold conclusion that some really loved, but most people were like, why would you do this, David Gordon Green? And so I understand. I mean, I was amongst you. I was going, really? We're going to give him The Exorcist now? We want to give him a Hellraiser series? So unjustified. He doesn't need to have his hands on everything. He's just going to mangle it. And so I could see if you went in with apprehension. I know I did. I didn't have great expectations for this film. And so I think a lot of the public dunking that this movie is receiving has to do with its attachment to David Gordon Green. And I don't know that anybody's giving it a fair chance. But also, you get a lot of internet points if you point out that Blumhouse has spent an ungodly amount of money for the Exorcist property and for the rights, that they sink $400 million just to have the chance to make 3 Exorcist movies, which is yet another point where you could be cynical and you could take this movie to task without giving it a fair chance because you said they're going to do 3 of them. They didn't learn their lesson from the Halloween trilogy. You can't set out to make 3 movies at once. That just means that the first movie and the second movie are going to be hamstrung. We know there's only so many possibilities. This is just corporate greed at play. And usually that would be fair as well. But I have to say, if you have those concerns, you will go to this movie and you will see that it does conclude in a way that doesn't just straight up set up, oh, this is where we're going to go next. This is the next logical progression. We're going to get this second chapter that can only do but so much because we have to have a third chapter. We have to have a conclusion. So there can't be a certain level of stakes. There can't be a certain level of plot twist. Things have to be on a track that is just super predictable, just like it was with Halloween Kills, where really there couldn't be much story. Not much could happen because it was just filler. It was just that middle entry we had to have so the studio could make money. If you wanted to be the cynical film critic and look at this knowing there's supposed to be 3 Exorcist movies and so much money's at stake, I, again, would not begrudge you. I also thought that going into the movie. That's also why I didn't have high hopes for the movie. So far we're looking at the director and we're looking at the studio and you're going, okay, all the more reason I shouldn't put any faith in The Exorcist Believer. And then you also look at sort of the context in which this movie is coming out, or the point in time in which this movie is coming out, I should probably say, because we are getting so many like legacy horror sequels and requels and remakes, reboots, if you will. And David Gordon Green did that with Halloween. And what did he do? He brought back the Laurie Strode character. He made it her like triumphant arc. He made her the hero, really put her at the center of everything and used her as a way to get people in to see the movie. And I'm not saying that they're not doing that with Ellen Burstyn, because they kind of are. I mean, that she was so important to this movie and to getting people's butts in the seats that she originally rebuffed their first contract offer, and then they came back and they doubled it. And even still, she's like, that's a ton of money. I should probably take it. And she was like, you know what? I need to know that if I'm going to go do another Exorcist movie, that it is going to help people. So she said, give me double the money, but also ensure that a lot of students will receive some scholarships to the school of my choice. And they did that for her. So even if you want to be cynical, a lot of good is coming out of this movie. I'm happy Ellen Burstyn got paid, and I'm happy that kids are getting a further education and maybe get a better start for themselves because of this movie's existence. But also, she is not employed into this movie in the way that you think she is. She is not on screen for as long as you think she is. This plot does not take these same old convoluted or contrived steps that you may think it is going to, like it did with Laurie Strode. She is not employed in a crass, gross, ugly manner like the Sally Hardesty character was in the most recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is not a script that was just kind of shat out hastily to get big bucks. I went into this movie seeing a lot of really bad reviews and seeing really bad scores and seeing things that are going to really turn people off of the movie to where now I'm like, what? I think critics and internet personalities are just looking for clicks and looking to make a name off of this movie to some extent, because I went to this movie thinking this movie was going to be some sort of great big movie with all this subtext that was anti-abortion. I kept seeing that David Gordon Green in hideous, disgusting fashion makes an anti-abortion movie with the Exorcist believer. That's not this movie, guys. I mean, you may bring that to the table. You may be sensitive to that. You may be ready to get triggered and say that that's what you get from this. No, it is not. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say there is a character that we find out in her past did have an abortion. And this demon automatically pinpoints that and uses it to torture her. I do not believe that this is the filmmaker telling you what you should believe, if you should be pro-life or pro-choice. I think that this is a character that they go to painstaking effort to paint as somebody of a certain belief system, somebody with a certain past, somebody who wanted to be a nun, and they made certain life decisions that made that career trajectory, if you will, impossible. And so she made her choices, she had the abortion, and she's been having probably mixed feelings and doubts about it for the rest of her life. And she's been carrying it with guilt and shame, not because with a broad brush we can say that all abortion is bad or that David Gordon Green is saying that, but because for this personal character, her personal story, for her, the individual, it is something that has been a source of consternation. It was a tough decision in her life that came out of a situation that was not her normal thing that she would do. And it's not to say that she wouldn't go back and do it again. It's not to say that she would go back and not do it. It's not to say any of that. It is nothing more than a devilish antagonist, a demon, looking to do whatever it can to strike at its adversary, to cripple them, to find their weak spot, to find the bruises and to press on them with vigor. And that is what the demon is doing here. There is a father that lost his wife in the course of childbirth. And so the demon, of course, is going to go after that. It's not necessarily to tell you what you have to do if for some reason you are put in a situation where you have to choose should your wife or your baby be born. That is not what is happening here. It's not David Gordon Green on a pedestal. It is simply a horror picture that is going out to have tension, to have stakes, to really let you know, oh, this is a very tense, terse situation with a whole lot up for grabs. And this is quite the opponent. If you are the parent in this room whose child is possessed, if you are the minister or somebody overseeing these exorcism and you want to step in, then it is going to go through your subconscious, it is going to go through your past, and it is going to absolutely torture you with what it finds. It knows how to come at you. It is a demon. It is a deceiver. It is a manipulator. It is a torturer. And they do a good job of showing that in this movie. So I think a lot of what you're hearing about this film going in, it's like all this stuff that's on the periphery. It's not actually what you're going to see on the screen. It's just all these other little tidbits and details we know about it that may inform your opinion of the movie before you even go in. Or you may have heard so many other opinions that you don't want to be on the outside of it because that could be kind of embarrassing, or it could make you feel ridiculed or stupid for enjoying a movie because everyone else is just out here dunking on it left and right. But like I said, I think when you look at all these things I've told you, they are all real. Yes, a lot of studios remake horror movies and they bring in legacy players, and it is just to get butts in seats and it is just to make money. Yes, David Gordon Green has a checkered past with horror because he had a great horror film, then he had one that was divisive, then he had one that was even more divisive. Those things are all true. Yes, we've seen a lot of legacy characters come back and get employed a certain way, and that a lot of times it's gross and it's disrespectful. But that doesn't mean that every time it happens just like that. And yes, we've seen a bajillion and one possession movies, but that doesn't mean that we've seen this possession movie. It doesn't mean that The Exorcist Believer is going to be just as tropey and bland and lazy as the Pope's Exorcist. I think we just get a little bit eager nowadays to where we don't give movies a fair chance in the way we would have if this came out in like 1978 or 1980 and was a sequel that was coming out to The Exorcist back then, we would have just showed up to the theater and then made our opinion there. Or if you pick this up in a DVD or a movie store back in the day, like a Blockbuster, and went home and watched it. If you didn't just have everybody's opinions and hot takes and people trying to monetize an opinion and get into the echo chamber and to not be on the outside looking in so they wouldn't be made fun of or have an opinion. I feel like if you actually watch the movie and you talk about the actual movie, the actual plot, the actual performances, which are all very, very strong, from the little girls who do all sorts of really challenging physical acting, stuff that if they were to, not do this right, if they were to have a misfire at their performance, if they were to look just absurd and stupid and silly, they would get clowned on by their peers when they went back to school. That was at stake here, but they were fantastic. The guy that plays the father, you immediately fall for this dude and his relationship to his daughter. They take their time with this movie. They understood that part of what made the first Exorcist so great was that it wasn't just another cheap trick horror movie. No, it was a drama that played like a real big studio film, like a classic Hollywood movie, and then horrifying things happened within that drama. Exorcist Believer has real human drama. It has real human stakes. It has actual relationships. It has some character development. Not like a ton, but more than you see in most horror fare. I really do feel like David Gordon Green did kind of take the time to watch the first movie and at least try to understand its relevance to society and to that time period, and then go, well, how can I adjust that for modernity? How do most people perceive religion now? What binds us across faiths? What could somebody who is agnostic or atheist, how could they perceive religion? What would their cynicism say? What might they expect of different religious characters? If I put a pastor in this movie that one of these girls goes to his church, what will audience members automatically expect of him? And how do I subvert those expectations? How do I show that all across the globe, there are certain things that are just common in people's belief systems, and it's always been there? How do I show that at the end of the day, despite all of our differences, we are all going through challenges and struggles, and we all need hope, and we have to lean on one another. We can't allow our differences to tear us apart and to make those challenges even worse. How do I make sure that I'm being faithful to the original, showing the audience certain things that they expect? Yeah, okay, we can throw in maybe somebody's head getting twisted around here or there, but we aren't going to just follow the same story beats step by step like so many of these requels do. No, I'm going to go and I'm going to have a conclusion that is completely different. I'm going to throw a few new wrinkles into the fold. I'm not going to set it up to where everyone goes, oh, I know what movie 2 is going to be, and therefore I know what's not going to happen in movie 2, so I know what's going to happen in movie 3. You're going to get to this movie's end and go, they could go any which number of ways. They actually told a confined story. They had a beginning, a middle, an end. There was ethos, there was pathos, there was a plot. I'm not saying this is as good as the original by any means, but I'm saying the fact that this movie's getting like a half star from people or 1 out of 5 stars, I don't understand that, because yes, we have seen 10 million horror movies that are about possession or the devil, and most of them are super lazy. They have nothing to say. They have no real story. They have no scares or suspenseful elements that we haven't seen 1,000 times over that are just recycled. I don't think you can say that about The Exorcist Believer. I really do think they looked at the franchise and they went, where do opportunities lie? What have we not seen before? Well, we've not seen 2 girls simultaneously possessed. We've not seen those 2 girls used to pit different families against one another. We've not seen different faiths come together to fight this evil. And we've not gotten to an ending to where it couldn't just be solved by somebody saying, you know what, take me, I'm going to offer myself up. I kept waiting for that to happen because I'm so accustomed to requels where we just follow the beats of the old movie, and so we get to the same destination. You do not get to the same exact destination in Exorcist Believer that you did with the original Exorcist film, and for that, I am grateful. That's what I'm saying. I did not come to this movie expecting to feel as attached to certain characters as I did. I expected to cringe a lot more because I think the trailer was just awful. I think they cut that trailer to make it look like your run-of-the-mill horror movie, your run-of-the-mill ghost or possession movie, one of your little things that go bump in the night types of film that you might see on a Friday that might be PG-13. You might be surrounded by teenagers who for the first time are able to go see horror movies. This is not that movie. This is a movie with some mature content that I think actual adults who've been watching horror for years if they go in with an open mind and they don't want to just go dunk all over a movie and shit on it for poops and giggles, then I think you can actually get something out of this story. And I think you can actually maybe reflect on certain things in either your own faith, your own lack of faith, maybe your neighbor's faith. Maybe you've been too cynical about them and their relationship to whatever entity that they worship. I just thought it was kind of a thought-provoking movie that, while not perfect in any means, definitely offered up way more than what we are hearing from some folks who are really, I think, just trying to cash in on this movie being so easy to bully. But those are my thoughts on The Exorcist Believer. I will get off of my soapbox now. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you really do sincerely think that this movie is like a half star out of 5 stars or a 1 star out of 5 stars, then of course, film is subjective. It is an art form. You take from it what you take from it. Let me know what you took from it down below. Let me hear your arguments for why the movie was just god-awful, or if you enjoyed it like me, if you are one of the few who actually took something from this movie, well, then I will talk to you as well down in the comments section. Other than that, you don't have to implore you to do all the old YouTube yada yada, so please hit like, please comment, please subscribe, but also, please have yourself a wonderful day. I'm Nate for natemareflix saying, that's a wrap.